everyone. This is Kev, and this is the YouTube channel Black Men Being Brutally Honest. Welcome to the best show on YouTube as of right now, and kind of for a while now. So, with me is Roger Stevens. Introduce yourself, sir.
Hello, folks. This is Roger Stevens of the Roger Report. Check out the channel if you haven't already. If you haven't, you've been cheating yourself.
Yeah, all right. Here's what brings us to this broadcast right now. There is now an accusation out there about Paul Mooney and his relationship with his one of his best friends in the world, Richard Pryor. Former bodyguard Rashon Khan has come forward and made the stunning accusation that in the early '80s, Richard Pryor wanted his friend and legendary comedic writer Paul Mooney dead because Paul Mooney was having sex with his son. Upon hearing something like this, Roger, what are your thoughts when you first hear something like this?
Honestly, my first thought is this guy is doing this for the money. He's trying to get some money off this, doing interviews, have people pay him to come talk about this stuff. Because Richard Pryor been dead for a while. They were good friends. I need to have some reason why I should be buying into this type of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it does seem like sort of a cash grab when you think about it. And also, if this isn't even remotely true, is not only disrespectful to the legacy of Paul Mooney, but is disrespectful to the memory of Richard Pryor, which is a damn shame. And as more information surfaces, this guy Rashon Khan actually wrote a book, and I think this is a way to promote his book. Now, every time someone writes a book for some reason, is all these stunning sexual accusations about somebody. Look, think about it. Superhead, Corinne Steffen, she wrote a book. Then there was this guy that was supposedly trying to out all these black superstars as being homosexual. Then the guy who recently accused Dwight Howard of having some dealings with him, he also accused Dwight Howard of he also wrote a book. So isn't it quite convenient that this guy also writes a book and tries to make some stunning accusation like this? Now, Eddie Griffin said something a while back that kind of like had some gravity to it. He said that, famous black male, celebrities, they don't leave this business clean. They don't leave there clean. There's always something to put them in a bad light. Now, do you agree with that, or do you think that is just some kind of self-victimization?
No, well, looking at it, if you as a black man, if you go high, if you get kind of high, it seems like they're gonna try to put something on you. Honestly, I've even said jokingly years ago, if you're a famous black man, they're gonna call you gay some kind of way. And I was making jokes about that years ago. Oh, they ain't gonna let you not be gay.
Yeah. It always seems like whenever you want to destroy somebody, you always use sexuality as a weapon.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. It's sometimes it's sexuality. Sometimes it's they gonna say you raped somebody. Sometimes they're gonna say you was really violent or whatever. But yeah, they're not really trying to let you become too rich or famous as a black man without putting something negative next to your name. It's like they want to put an asterisk next to your name, no matter what.
And I mean, like this seems like it's just an ongoing trend. I mean, if you look at the past few years, I mean, any black man, especially those who speak out on issues such as race, which Paul Mooney throughout his career, and you can tell how it reflects in his writing how much he has touched on the issue of racism in America. Like you can even say it like one of his more recent ones was, back during the Chappelle Show run when they was doing the Ask a Black Dude. That was specifically to touch on, race issues, where he most famously said, and it sounds kind of funny, but when you really think about it, it has a really deep meaning. everybody want to be a nigga, but don't nobody want to be a nigga.
Yeah.
And like Paul Mooney, like he doesn't have a filter. He doesn't have a filter at all. Now, as far as this little situation with Richard Pryor, um, yeah, I do feel like it's kind of an attempt. It's kind of an attempt. Why else would you bring out such information right now? And like I said, this guy is just out to, like, I guess, sell his book. So let me see if I can pull up some audio real quick. And this is going to be Rashon Khan speaking on this matter. And just for the record, just for this broadcast concern, do not own the copyrights to any footage, any of these images, but I do use them under fair use, which means that this is for nonprofit. I'm not trying to make any money off this, although YouTube is a place where you can make a little money if you keep trying. So let me go ahead and let's see. All right, and one important thing is context. Context. When this story first broke, Third Coast Sports Head, which is I'm about to like, they have the clip of the interview from Comedy Hype. Um, Let me read this caption for you real quick. Richard Pryor wanted to have Paul Mooney killed for sleeping with his son, Richard Pryor Jr. According to Richard Pryor's bodyguard, Richard Pryor Jr. was a little boy at the time. Wow. Wow. In the audio, you're going to hear him say Richard Pryor Jr. was young. He never said anything about a little boy. And it's funny to me how everyone so quickly, instead of checking their info, which like this supposedly happened in the early 80s. Richard Pryor Jr. was in his early 20s at the time. He wasn't a little boy. It's funny that people tried to run the pedophilia already on this. But let's listen to this audio real quick. I'm not gonna play the entire thing, but I'm just gonna play some of it, some key parts. So, all right, you still there, Roger?
Yep.
All right.
So Paul took advantage of the situation.
Let's see.
And he violated, and that's any man. If you violate your children like that. So Paul took advantage of the situation. And so from there on, whatever Paul Mooney was to Richard, and there was a time that Paul Mooney was Richard's friend. I acknowledge that. Which is why the gay community really couldn't say anything they attempted to about Richard, because Paul Mooney was his friend. And they laughed. So when Paul did what he did, it was a violation of friendship first, and then my son, right? And in some circles, that's supposed to be dealt with. Was there ever a conversation to retaliate against that? Yes. Of course. To what extent? To the extent of Richard didn't want him on the planet no more. He shared it with me. He said he wanted somebody killed. Which that wasn't his conversation. So I just attributed he must be high right now. And it's Friday. This is the high day, so it's Friday, Saturday, Sundays. By Wednesday he'll be straight. Because I knew the pattern. And I asked him again because we never spoke like that. And I just said, do you remember what you said to me last week? And he was on it so clear. It was like, okay, it's serious. And so then I asked him, what is it about? He said, $1 million. I want somebody killed. I was like, damn, I'm not a killer. I'm not that person. But I did give a thought. I know some people, some damn where. Okay,
All right. I'm gonna stop it right there, and I'm gonna go to the very beginning. And he said something very key, so I want you to hear it.
From JoJo Dancer on, the relationship became fragile. Okay, because Paul Mooney had Richard's son by that time. Okay, and he violated, and that's.
Okay, did you hear this, Roger?
Yep.
Okay, so what do you think of this?
Man, I believe this dude's just trying to make some money.
I think he is too. I think he is too. And I'm going to say something key. Wasn't JoJo Dancer about Richard Pryor's drug addiction? He said from JoJo Dancer on. So this was his. This was post drug addiction, post rehab, post setting himself on fire. Am I correct in saying this? And according to this, he said from JoJo Dancer on, he said Richard was on the sauce, which means that he implied that Richard Pryor was still doing drugs at the time of this happening. So basically, what you're saying is not only uh, what did he want this man dead, but he was also still doing drugs at the time, which is basically you're calling Richard Pryor a liar. And just with this man already being dead for uh, uh, a few amount of years right now, you're tarnishing the legacy. You're kind of tarnishing the legacy of Richard Pryor by saying all of this.
Now he is, but I just don't think he cares. He's a former employee. Doesn't necessarily mean it was his friend. You know, he may not be friends to neither Richard or Paul. He may have no real dealings with Richard Jr. And now I do hear a little bit of a echo of myself in the background, just to let you know, Kev.
Yeah,
What I'm gonna say to this is that
you sound okay over here though.
yeah, yeah, I don't hear it now. So I'm gonna say to this is that I mean, just coming out accusing a black man of sleeping with another black man, man, it's so Hollywood right now, and it's like trying to turn. Now, my thing is, this may be more of a personal issue because Paul Mooney is big, but he's not big, big. Like, I don't think, and at least in my opinion, I don't think like he's a household name to white folk. I know he is to a lot of black folk, to white folks. So I think this is just if the guy is coming out with a book, he wants the book to sell. He's gonna try to assist in some sales by making some crazy accusations about what's going on. At the end of the day, the Pryor has a son that was being molested or something. He speaks for
Well,
himself.
let's put it like this: it wasn't a case of molestation. Richard Pryor Jr. at the time of this supposedly happening was in his early 20s, and I think his son did write a book saying that he came out as gay to his parents, but he says that his parents were fully supportive of it. So like I said, with all of this in existence, how could this be? Now, say for the sake of people who think that Richard Pryor might have been wrong for wanting this man dead for having sex with his son, um, I want people to think about it as a parent. You're just say that this is true, which I don't believe. I think this is just another smear job against a black man at the end of the day. Um, if it were your child, like you're not gonna care how this child is. Granted, like I said, this wasn't a case of molestation at all. But there's a code. You don't mess with my child. Like, I would never want to hear like when my daughter gets old enough to date, which is forever, hopefully. I don't want, you know, like I said, I don't want to hear my friend dating my child. I don't want to hear it. A friend that is like one of my best friends my age, especially with my daughter at the age she's at right now. Years down the road, I don't want to hear this. I probably might want to do something to the man too. Nobody wants to hear that. No, nobody really wants to hear something like that with a child. And with celebrities playing by the rules that they play by, if granted this situation was true, I wouldn't say this was too far fetched. I really wouldn't. But what makes it far fetched is the timing of all this. This guy, I feel like, is just trying to sell a book.
And let me throw this in too. At the success level of a Richard Pryor, if he really wanted to do it, he could have got it done. He had the money.
Yeah, yeah. It could have been cast off as one of those freak accident celebrity deaths.
What
I
number
mean, you
one?
always have, yeah, the conspiracy theory would always be out there. But you're correct. If Richard Pryor really wanted it done, and what this guy was saying was Richard Pryor offered up $1 million, and he
Right.
was like, man, he said the only crime in that was, well, not really the only crime. He didn't say, he said something to that context. He was like, man, some people would have done it for 10,000. He said, you offering up 1 million?
Well, and see, this is my thing. Paul Mooney is a black man. He could have got killed for some bread, and nobody would have really cared that much because he's still a black man. At the end of the day, there's only so much investigating they're gonna do. That's just
Yeah.
reality.
And then at the time, who knew who Paul Mooney was anyway? I mean, he was a comedian, like but he was more of a background player. He wrote for Saturday Night Live. I think in particular, I think he wrote for Eddie Murphy while he was on Saturday Night Live. He wrote for Richard Pryor, and he made those Dave Chappelle appearances. Nobody really knew who Paul Mooney was for real until Chappelle show. Well, at least not to me. If people heard of Paul Mooney before, it's in passing. Uh, and only in the deep comedy circles, but he mostly stayed in the background. So if, say, Paul Mooney, legendary comedy writer, is murdered in 1984, 85, whenever this happened, who would have really cared at the time, seeing that the media was the way it was? Back then, think about it, we didn't have internet access. We didn't have websites reporting like this. So
Exactly.
who would have cared? Who would have cared?
Now,
Who
I
would have
would
cared?
say this. I believe Paul Mooney was like a regular on the Richard Pryor show, but that was just one show, the Richard Pryor show. And yes, everybody in the business, they're gonna know who Paul Mooney is. But for us that weren't in the business as much, we don't, I mean, we're a lot younger than them. So yeah, I really hadn't heard of Paul Mooney until Dave Chappelle. And then when I start hearing about the different things he's done, yes, he's obviously done a lot of work. Those and people in Hollywood definitely would know who he is. But the regular average citizen, especially the way, as you say, we got coverage back then, the way the media treated black people back then, you know, I'm not sure how many people really know who he was if something were to befall him. But then again, Richard had the money to make that happen. So that's just one more reason. What the story just seems totally outlandish to me. I'm not gonna say Paul Mooney ain't never been with a man, but I ain't never heard about a man with no man. I mean, I know a lot of crazy stuff was going on in Hollywood back then, but I ain't never even heard about him being with no man, and not even one time. So for it to come up now, when he's in his older years, Richard Pryor been dead for so many years. This seemed like a cash grab to me. We gonna create some type of controversy to help sell his book. Let's make some money, and we'll just do it at the expense of Paul Mooney because you know, uh, it's like in today's time, you can't say nothing too negative about somebody participating in gay activities anyway. Or then you're gonna have the gay community trying to have a problem with you. So you know, it just seems like Paul Mooney getting thrown under the bus. I'm like I said, I'm gonna have to get into some details about this to even make this sound reasonable. Because right at this point, it does not even sound reasonable to me. Why would out of all people he messed with Richard Pryor's son?
Well, like according to a lot of the things I heard, that is kind of the culture of Hollywood. You hear a lot of stuff like this, but at the same time at the same time, I just want to get out there that it was, if it did happen, it was not molestation, it was not pedophilia, you know. But
Well,
at the
I
same,
don't.
but at the same time, it's like I'm not gonna sit up here and deny that people do use sex and sexuality to attack others' reputations, especially black men as of late. So,
Absolutely, absolutely.
so, and then although some of Paul Mooney's mannerisms, when you hear him talk and as he sit up in interviews, it kind of there a little bit. He does have that kind of that little sweetness to them or whatever. But that could be anything. I've met a couple guys like that, and they were complete. They were complete. They were more heterosexual than some other guys I knew. But I mean, it's like Hollywood is Hollywood. Hollywood is Hollywood. For this man to come out with this now, I feel like it's disrespectful to everyone involved, including Richard Pryor's family. On a dead man. On a dead man.
It's highly disrespectful. And I'm gonna just put it like this: dude old enough to speak for himself. So if Richard Pryor Jr. got a message to send about this, I listen to him say what he got to say. But he old enough to speak for himself. He already then came out as he can speak for himself.
Yeah, you kind of breaking up. Now, for the record, Paul Mooney has denied this vehemently. Like he's denied ever having sex with Richard Pryor's son. So that's his side of it. So he's already like his public relations people have already made the statement, that he denies it. And a lot of people are gonna hop on, because that's the way they do us these days. They're gonna think that Paul Mooney is guilty and that this whole crazy ass story is true. So yeah, we're all aware of this. But as far as I'm concerned, I think that this is just one more smear campaign on a black man. It's like Eddie Griffin said some years back, comedian Eddie Griffin said some years back that black men do not leave this industry clean. Now, I'm looking forward to all the times that I'm going to hear stuff about other black men as time go by. Like I feel like they're going to pull something on Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy trying to land this Netflix deal. You really haven't heard too much about it as of late. But I feel like because something happened with Eddie Murphy some years back. To think who's the cleanest black guy right now?
Well, Eddie Murphy. They're trying to paint. I've heard people trying to paint Eddie Murphy out as a deadbeat dad already. So, I don't think he's gonna leave clean either. They just not trying to let black men have a good, productive life, make millions of dollars, and be okay and understanding people. They just not trying to let that happen.
No, not for real. Like I said, even if people do look at that as sort of a conspiracy theory that black men don't leave the business clean, if they look at it as a conspiracy theory, there's a lot of evidence to support the theory. there's tons of it. I mean, and all I ask people to do is when you hear stuff like that, don't play dumb. Just wait till all the facts come out. Don't jump to conclusions immediately. If you're guilty, he's guilty. If it happened, it happened. But like right now, I just don't buy it. I think this is just a man trying to come up with something real juicy to sell books. Because honestly, who wants to hear about how he got Richard Pryor through a crowd into a limo? Who wants to hear that? It's like that night was crazy.
Let me say this. The two people who supposedly involved, one done said he ain't did nothing. So if the other guy don't come out and say he did something, meaning Richard Jr., to me there is no story. Because the first thing that the bodyguard got to do, or the ex-bodyguard got to do, first of all, you need to explain to me how you even know this happened in the first place. How do you know? You know what I'm saying? Because if Richard and Paul was,
he explained it. He explained it. He said it like I guess they were hanging out, and he said he was real high, and he said it, and he said he could tell he was high. So he asked him a week later, "Okay, did you mean what you said?" And he said, "Yeah, I mean what I said."
No, but that was in reference to Richard putting a price on Paul's head. That's what I thought. Yeah. I'm saying. How does he know the sexual activity? Does he know that? That's what I'm saying. He's saying Richard Jr. had sex with Paul. How does he have that information? That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's a report somewhere that explains that in detail. I'm sure, but it will or not.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I got to check into the story to even have a reason to even think that this man might be doing anything less than lying at this point, because it's just an unfathomable story to me. So I got to really look at the details to even, because right now I got one man, Paul, that said he didn't do it, and I don't know if Richard Jr. said he did anything. So if Richard Jr. didn't say, don't come out and corroborate the story, to me there's nothing to it. It's just what you said. They just want a black man to look bad, you know. And none of us are perfect people, so you can always try to find something to make any person look bad, because we're just not perfect people. That's just not the way of the world.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, we're not, but like I said, the attempts, they're getting old, they're getting tired, and somebody gonna have to defend against this shit sooner or later. So, anyway, we're about to wrap this up. Okay. Like I said, I don't believe this shit, as I established, and it doesn't appear that Roger believes it either. Like I said, this is just a cash grab. Man, these people always want to sell books, but and using sexual accusations to do it. So, I mean, Paul Mooney, legendary comedic writer, real sorry this is happening. I would say that. Real sorry this is happening, but people, when you're a public figure, you're just about at risk for anything, including stuff like this. So, all right, you got anything else to say, Roger?
You know what? To anybody who comes across this, please check out. And I think I'm gonna do a little bit of driving. I think I'm gonna listen to some Paul Mooney on the way. So I think I'm gonna pull up his specials and listen to it.
Okay, can you repeat that, because you totally borged out?
Okay. Now, I was saying, if anyone comes across this broadcast, check out the Roger Report, like and subscribe. And I think what I'm gonna do is pull up a little Paul Mooney and listen to him, because I got to do some driving. So I'm gonna listen to Paul Mooney as I drive, because I don't believe none of this mess right now, and I'm gonna enjoy listening to some Paul Mooney comedy. That's what I'm about to do.
Yeah, and Paul Mooney is very unfiltered. And if you listen to a lot of his dialogue, you probably see why they're trying to hurl accusations at him. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. Special shout out to Reigning Woman, who left comments. She said, I don't think it's true about Paul Mooney. Are they trying to get rid of Paul Mooney? When was the last comedic sacrifice for the entertainment industry? Wow. Interesting point.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Hey, Reigning Woman. Well, go ahead.
All right. Well, we're going to end it right here. Thanks for tuning in for those who watched us live, and for those who are going to watch the replay of this. Check us out, the Habitual Line Steppers. Like I said, subscribe to the Roger Report, and also subscribe to our boy Donnie, who runs the YouTube channel You Ain't Shit for Watching. Also with this channel, like, share, subscribe, and Kev, we trust. Goodbye.